Imagine a lone prophet descending from the mountains. Okay, but he's not carrying ancient scriptures. Instead, he's got this radical, challenging message for humanity's future.
Right. It's not about commandments handed down. It's about shaking things up.
Exactly. This isn't just a book. It's presented as a kind of philosophical earthquake, really. It's designed to make you question, well, pretty much everything you thought you knew. Morality, purpose, even yourself.
It really demands engagement. It's not a comfortable read, is it? It challenges those deep assumptions about what it means to be human, what we're actually living for.
It's definitely not about passive listening, that's for sure. He doesn't want you to just nod along.
No, he wants to ignite something, doesn't he? To provoke you into actively grappling with where your own life is headed, what values you're actually living by. It's less about giving answers, more about posing these huge, sometimes really disorienting questions.
And that's really what we want to get into today. We're doing a deep dive into Friedrich Nietzsche's monumental work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Yeah, a big one.
Our mission, if you like, is to try and pull out some of the most potent, maybe transformative ideas from this pretty challenging text. We'll be looking at Zarathustra's teachings on human potential, this radical reevaluation of values he calls for, and ultimately this kind of joyful affirmation of life.
Even with all the difficulty, yeah. We want to unpack the layers because it's dense, it's poetic, and sometimes the implications are, well, unsettling. We'll try to highlight those passages that really make you stop and think about your own path, not just what he says, but maybe why it matters and how these concepts might resonate, with your own experiences.
So this deep dive is definitely for you if you're looking for a shortcut to some really profound insights, maybe a fresh perspective on existence, or just a solid challenge to conventional thinking.
Prepare for some aha moments maybe, or perhaps some uh-oh moments too.
Could be. But moments that might just change how you see your own journey, your own path of, as he puts it, self-overcoming. It might inspire you to look deeper into the meaning you're actually creating for yourself. Übermensch. Zarathustra's core proclamation. The Superman and the meaning of the earth. Yeah. Okay, so we've set the stage for this radical prophet figure. Let's follow Zarathustra now, as he comes down from his 10 years of solitude up in the mountains. He's ready to, well, shatter some illusions.
He doesn't waste time, does he?
No. His very first big proclamation is designed to shock, to provoke. He announces, I bring you the Superman.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does he mean by this Superman, this Übermensch? Why is this idea so central right from the start?
It's absolutely central, and you're right, it's often misunderstood. What's key here, I think, is that the Superman isn't some kind of fixed ideal or like a biological evolution in the simple sense.
Right, not Captain Krypton.
Definitely not. Zarathustra clarifies immediately. Mankind is something to be surpassed. That's the core of it. He sees humanity not as the end goal, the finished product, but as a bridge, a transition point.
Exactly, a dynamic transition. The act of living, for him, should be this constant striving beyond your current self. A relentless process of growth, transformation. He's throwing down a challenge to everyone, really. What have you done to surpass mankind?
Wow. That's direct.
It is. So it's not about becoming a new species biologically, but about realizing the absolute peak of human potential spiritually, psychologically, creatively, all of it.
He uses that really vivid analogy, too, the one that feels almost confrontational to drive it home.
The ape analogy.
Yeah. He says, what is the ape to a man? A laughing stock, a thing of shame. And just so shall a man be to the Superman. A laughing stock, a thing of shame. That really hammers home the distance, doesn't it? The vast gap between where we are now and this potential.
It does. It suggests our current condition isn't something to be comfortable with, but something to be actively, maybe even ruthlessly overcome. It's not about gentle, gradual evolution. It's a leap.
A radical leap.
Precisely. And he doubles down on it, saying things like, you have evolved from worm to man, but much within you is still worm. Or, once you were apes, yet even now man is more of an ape than any of the apes.
Ouch. So we've made progress, but we're still carrying all this baggage, primitive stuff.
Yeah, unexamined habits, instincts, deep limitations, and the Superman then becomes the meaning of the earth. That phrase is crucial.
Meaning of the earth. What's that getting at?
It's a call to ground our highest hopes, our deepest sense of purpose, not in some abstract, airy-fairy, otherworldly place, but right here, in this world, this physical existence.
So no pie in the sky when you die.
Exactly. Zarathustra demands, let your will say, the Superman shall be the meaning of the earth. It's a total reorientation of purpose. He's telling you, the listener, your most profound project, your ultimate meaning, has to be created and lived fully, right here, on this earth, in this life.
And that naturally leads us to another really foundational piece of his message, one that's often controversial. This fervent affirmation of the earth, the body. And tied to that, a powerful rejection of any afterworlds or otherworldly hopes.
It's a cornerstone.
He pleads, doesn't he? I beg of you, my brothers, remain true to the earth and believe not those who speak to you of otherworldly hopes. That's pretty radical, especially back then. For so many people, the idea of something beyond this life gives huge comfort, meaning, how does he justify taking that away, seemingly?
Well, he sees it as a direct assault, really, a frontal attack on traditional religions and philosophies that, in his view, systematically devalue this world, our actual human experience, in favor of some imagined spiritual realm or a promised afterlife.
He calls them poisoners, right?
Yes, poisoners, despisers of life. He sees them as decaying ones and poisoned ones themselves, of whom the earth is weary. His argument is basically that by constantly focusing on an afterlife or a purely spiritual existence, we end up neglecting, condemning, even diminishing the very life we do have.
Which has huge implications.
Absolutely profound. He says, once blasphemy against God was the greatest blasphemy, but God died, and those blasphemers died along with him. Now to blaspheme against the earth is the greatest sin.
Wow. He's completely flipping the script on sin itself.
He is. He's inverting it. Declaring that our primary loyalty, our sacred duty almost, is to this world, to making this life worthy of eternal affirmation, as we'll get to. It's a challenge to you, the listener. Are you deferring real living, real striving to some future reward, or are you engaged now?
That's a powerful inversion. And it feels like he's doing something similar with the body, too, confronting centuries of, disdain for the physical. It was often seen as just an obstacle, right?
Yeah.
Something dirty you had to overcome for spiritual purity.
Exactly. He points out how the soul wished the body lean, monstrous, and famished, thinking that by torturing the body, it could somehow escape to a higher realm.
So what's his counter-argument?
Yeah.
What's the core of his case against that contempt for the physical?
He argues that despising the body is fundamentally a form of self-contempt. It's denying your own wholeness. He has this really profound statement. Behind your thoughts and feelings, my brother, there is a mighty Lord, an unknown sage. It is called self. It dwells in your body. It is your body.
So the self is the body, in a way, not separate.
Inextricably tied, not something separate floating above it. So to despise the body is to despise a fundamental part of who you actually are. He uses that metaphor of humanity as a polluted river full of conflicting drives, unintegrated stuff.
Yeah, the Superman.
The Superman is the sea that can receive this polluted river without becoming defiled itself. It symbolizes this capacity for integration, for transforming and transcending your nature without rejecting the earthly physical foundation. It's about finding this profound unity of mind and body where the body isn't just a meat sack or a source of sin, but a wise, vital instrument of the self.
Okay, now this next concept, pretty provocative. Zarathustra's idea of great contempt. He asks, what is the greatest thing you can experience? It is the hour of your greatest contempt. That sounds incredibly harsh, almost nihilistic on the surface. What's he really getting at there for us?
Yeah, it sounds bleak, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not about self-loathing in the usual sense or just hating everything. It's more like a radical form of critical reevaluation.
A necessary disillusionment.
Exactly. A profound moment of disillusionment that, paradoxically, can be incredibly fertile ground. It's the hour when even your own current happiness, your reason, your most cherished virtues suddenly seem, loathsome is his word. They seem limited, unexamined, maybe just conventional.
So it's contempt for the limitations of those things.
Precisely. It's the moment you realize that what you currently value, what makes you feel content, just isn't enough. It doesn't justify existence itself. The purpose is to spark a deeper longing, a profound dissatisfaction with the superficial, a desire for something truly magnificent to make life meaningful.
He says, but my happiness should justify existence itself.
Right. It's about moving beyond mere personal contentment to aspiring to something that elevates all of life, that gives your existence ultimate significance. For you, the listener, this might mean really questioning your comfortable routines, your accepted truths. asking, does my life truly reflect my highest potential, or have I kind of settled? It's the seed of self-overcoming, that moment of great contempt, to the spirit's evolution, the three metamorphoses.
Okay, so if the Superman is this huge, audacious vision of our ultimate potential, the why, maybe then the obvious next question is how? How do we even start this journey of self-overcoming he talks about?
And Zarathustra, being Zarathustra, gives us an allegory, doesn't he?
He does. A really profound roadmap for individual spiritual evolution. He calls it the three metamorphoses. How the spirit becomes a camel, the camel a lion, and the lion at last a child. This isn't just a nice story. It feels like a foundational framework for his whole philosophy of development.
It really is. Each stage represents a totally different relationship to values, to authority, and ultimately to your own creative power. It's a developmental journey.
From acceptance through rebellion to creation.
Exactly. Acceptance and duty, then rebellion and liberation, and finally, pure affirmation and forging new values. It's a path that, most people probably experience aspects of in their lives, even if they don't put these labels on it.
Let's break it down then. Stage 1. The camel, the spirit of burden and reverence. What defines this stage? What kind of burdens does the camel spirit take on? What does this look like in someone's life?
The camel represents the spirit that says yes to burdens, the spirit that carries great weight out of a sense of reverence or duty. He calls it the strong, reverent spirit that would bear much, the one that actually longs for the heavy and the heaviest.
So wants the burden.
In a way, yes. Think of the camel as that part of us that diligently carries the weight of tradition, rigorous learning, societal expectations, maybe even self-denial for a cause. Zarathustra gives examples. Things like to humiliate oneself in order to mortify one's pride, or to feed on the acorns and grass of knowledge and for the sake of truth to suffer hunger in one's soul, or even to go into foul water when it is the water of truth.
Heavy stuff indeed.
Right. So this stage is about accepting duty, tradition, existing knowledge, even hardship. It's learning discipline, acquiring skills, understanding the world as it's presented to you. For you, listening, this might resonate with times you've stuck to a tough study path, accepted a difficult responsibility, or maybe conformed to certain norms out of respect or just necessity. It's essential preparation.
But not the end point.
Definitely not the end point, as Zarathustra makes very clear.
Which leads us to the next stage, a complete break from that reverence. The lion, the spirit of freedom and rejection. Sounds like pure rebellion against the camel's load. Who's the big enemy the lion has to fight?
The lion's adversary is this massive figure, the great dragon, named Thou Shalt.
Thou shalt.
And this isn't just some vague symbol. The dragon is described as sparkling with golden scales, and on each scale glitters a golden Thou Shalt from 1,000 years. It represents all inherited values, traditions, moral rules, societal pressures that dictate how you must live, think, behave.
All the shoulds and oughts.
Exactly. The dragon basically proclaims, all value has already been created, and I am all created value. There will be no more I will. It's the suffocating weight of established authority, conventional morality, and the lion's response.
I will.
Simple, direct defiance. I will. It signifies this powerful rebellion against anything external telling it what to do, against values that have just been accepted without question. It's the moment the spirit refuses to just carry burdens anymore and demands its own freedom.
So the lion is about breaking free, saying I will instead of I must, rejecting those old thou shalts. But it's not yet creating new values itself, is it? Seems more destructive.
That's exactly right. Zarathustra is clear on this. To create new values that even the lion cannot accomplish, but to create for oneself freedom for new creating, that freedom the might of the lion can seize.
Okay. Freedom for creating.
Yes. The lion's job is to clear the deck, to make space for creation by destroying the old values, even saying a sacred no, even to duty. This is described as a terrifying assumption for a spirit that used to be so reverent. It's likened to preying and the work of a beast of prey.
Seizing the right to make your own path.
Exactly. Claiming autonomy, even if you don't know exactly where that path leads yet. It's about demolishing the old structures that block genuine self-creation. For you listening, this might be that phase in life where you break from family expectations, question society's rules, maybe ditch a career that felt imposed, even if the next step isn't totally clear.
And then the final, maybe most fascinating transformation. The child, the spirit of creation and affirmation. Zarathustra asks, but tell me, my brothers, what the child can do, which even the lion could not do. Why must the preying lion still become a child? What makes the child the ultimate stage here? How is it different from the lion's power?
The child represents something beyond just rebellion. It embodies innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a game, a self-rolling wheel, a first movement, a sacred yes.
The sacred yes, contrasted with the lion's sacred no.
Precisely. The lion could destroy and reject, but it was still kind of defined by what it was fighting against. The child, though, is pure affirmation, pure creation. It's unburdened by the past, free from resentment, and capable of generating its own values from within itself.
Like playing a game.
Yes, it's needed for the game of creation. It's a complete, joyful, sacred yes to its own will and the world it wants to build. The spirit now wills his own will, as Zarathustra puts it. It conquers its own world with fresh eyes, spontaneous energy. It's the stage where you, having hopefully cleared away the inherited clutter, joyfully create your own meaning, your own morality, your own purpose, not out of defiance anymore, but out of this overflowing affirmation of life itself. It's the ultimate expression of that journey towards becoming the Superman. 3. Zarathustra's scorn, critiques of contemporary society and morality.
So Zarathustra comes down from the mountains. He's not just offering these new paths like the Superman and the Metamorphoses. He also unleashes some pretty fierce critiques on the society and the morality he finds.
Oh yeah, he doesn't hold back.
Not at all. And one of his sharpest targets is what he calls the last man. He says quite provocatively, "I will speak to them of the most contemptible thing." Yeah, that, however, is the last man. Who is this last man, and why does Zarathustra despise him so much?
The last man is basically Zarathustra's worst-case scenario for humanity. It's a chilling warning about what happens when aspiration, when that will to self-overcoming just dies out.
So what's he like, this last man?
He lives for comfort, basically. Warmth. Avoids any discomfort, any real challenge, any genuine effort or striving. They actually think turning ill and being distrustful are sinful because it disturbs their cozy little peace.
Prefers superficial contentment.
Totally. Their lifestyle is described with this kind of insipid quality. A little poison now and then that makes for pleasant dreams, and much poison at the end for a pleasant death. It suggests a life that's just managed to avoid deep thought or suffering, but at the cost of any real vitality.
And work.
Work is just a pastime. They carefully avoid anything burdensome, like being truly poor, truly rich, truly leading, or truly following. Everything gets flattened out.
It paints a picture of just utter mediocrity, spiritual stagnation. When he describes this contentment, this avoidance of challenge, it's hard not to see reflections of that in modern life, isn't it? Maybe even in ourselves sometimes, when we choose ease over struggle.
Absolutely. The last man embodies that slide into contented conformity. They push for this bland, uninspired equality. No shepherd and one herd, everyone wants the same, everyone is the same. He who has other sentiments goes voluntarily into the madhouse.
Wow.
It really reflects Nietzsche's deep worry about societies that prioritize safety, comfort, and sameness above everything else. He feared it leads to this spiritual wasteland where greatness, creativity, individuality are just suppressed or seen as weird, even dangerous. For you, listening, it's a powerful mirror, it asks. Has your pursuit of comfort maybe steered you away from your own potential for something more?
And he doesn't spare the good and just either, which is, again, pretty provocative.
That one really throws people.
He says, whom do they hate most? The man who breaks their tables of values, the breaker, the lawbreaker, yet he is the creator. That seems completely backward. Wouldn't the good be the ones upholding society, keeping order?
This is such a crucial and radical point he makes. Zarathustra argues that the conventionally good and just are not the creators. Paradoxically, he calls them the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. How?
Because their rigid sticking to established values and laws, while it looks noble and seems necessary for keeping things stable, actually stifles change. It blocks growth. It prevents higher values from emerging. They actively crucify the whole human future because they can't tolerate anyone who dares to forge a new path, question the existing morals, or disrupt their comfortable order.
So their goodness becomes a prison.
In a way, yes. He says their spirit was imprisoned in their good conscience. The stupidity of the good is unfathomably wise, meaning their unquestioning belief in static values blinds them. They can't understand or accept real innovation or transformation. They fear the disruptor, the value breaker, even if that person is creating something new and higher because it threatens their inherited truths. It's a challenge for you, listening, to look at your own moral certainties. Are they living, evolving values, or are they rigid relics that resist growth?
He also has a really biting critique for those he calls the afterworldly and the preachers of death. He claims that it was suffering and impotence that created all afterworlds.
What's the core objection here? Is he just being anti-religious, or is there a deeper point?
It's definitely more than just being anti-religion. Zarathustra sees the whole invention of afterworlds and the doctrines of these preachers of death as symptoms of weakness, fear, and a profound weariness with life itself.
He describes it as weariness that wants to reach the ultimate with one leap, with the death leap, a poor, ignorant weariness, unwilling even to will any longer, that created all gods and afterworlds. These are the people promoting doctrines like lust is sin, giving birth is troublesome, pity is necessary, all things that, for Zarathustra, deny life's energy, its joy, its creative force.
He calls them the yellow ones or black ones.
Yes, spiritually consumptive individuals who, deep down, want to be rid of life, not live it more fully. They despise the body, they despise the earth, so they create these heavenly escapes from their own misery, from the perceived flaws of existence, from their inability to just say yes to life as it is. It's a call for you to check. Are your own hopes born from strength and affirmation, or maybe from a desire to escape the challenges of this world?
And he also turns a critical eye on the state itself, calls it the coldest of all cold monsters. This isn't just politics, is it? It's the deeper warning about the state's influence.
No, it goes much deeper than just politics. His warning is quite dire because it touches the core of individuality versus the collective. The state, he says, lies. It proclaims grand things like, on earth there is nothing greater than I. I am the governing hand of God.
But its real purpose?
According to Zarathustra, its real purpose is to manage and consume the superfluous, the all too many people who lack individual purpose, who need external structure. The state entices them to it, swallows and chews and re-chews them.
So the danger is losing yourself in the collective.
Exactly. The danger is the collective identity smothering individual potential. The state becomes the ultimate decider of all values, leading to a confusion of tongues of good and evil, and even a kind of will to death among citizens who lose their own drive within its machinery. He sees idolaters scrambling for the throne where filth sits, highlighting the corruption and emptiness of power when it's sought by the masses for superficial reasons, instead of by true creators aiming for genuine elevation. It makes you ask, doesn't it? Where do you draw the line between necessary social order and the state subtly eroding your unique spirit?
And then there's his surprising take on pity. He says, I like them not, the merciful ones, whose bliss is in their pity. Too destitute are they of bashfulness. This idea that pity could be offensive to modesty really goes against the grain. It feels wrong somehow. Are we supposed to just stop feeling empathy? Or is he pointing to something else, maybe a tougher kind of love?
This is definitely one of Nietzsche's most challenging ideas in Zarathustra, and yeah, it's often misunderstood. It's certainly not advocating cruelty or just being heartless.
So what's the issue with pity then?
He sees excessive pity as potentially offensive to modesty because it can actually disempower the person being pitied. It emphasizes their weakness, keeps them maybe dependent rather than inspiring them to overcome their situation.
Yeah.
He even suggests that sometimes unwillingness to help may be nobler than the virtue that rushes to do so, especially if that help comes from sentimentality or maybe a need for the helper to feel good about themselves rather than from genuine strength aiming to empower the other person.
So true compassion isn't just feeling sad for someone.
Not for Zarathustra. He says all great love is above all its pity, for it seeks to create what is loved. This implies that real love, real compassion, should aim to help others become stronger, overcome their suffering, to grow, not just to offer sympathy or perpetuate weakness. It's about willing their ascent towards becoming their own Superman, their own creator.
Wow, that's a high bar for compassion.
It is, and the most extreme line on this comes from the devil character, who says, God is dead. Of his pity for man has God died, suggesting that a God who only pities rather than inspires overcoming ultimately loses vitality. For you listening, it's a tough question. Does your compassion truly elevate others, or does it sometimes, unintentionally, keep them smaller? 4. The creator's path. Solitude, virtue, and relationships.
Okay, so if Zarathustra is tearing down these old values, critiquing society's comforts, what's the positive path? What does he offer for the individual who actually wants to become a creator, to strive towards this Superman ideal? One theme that keeps coming up is solitude. It's necessity, but also its dangers.
Yes, solitude is crucial for him.
He urges people Far away from the marketplace and from fame happens all that is great. Far away from the marketplace and from fame have always dwelt the creators of new values. Why is getting away from the marketplace, embracing solitude, so vital for the creative spirit?
The marketplace for him represents the crowd, public opinion, the noise, the constant demand for approval, and what he calls the poison flies.
Poison flies.
Yeah, the small and pitiful people who buzz around with empty praise, gossip, petty concerns. They try to drag the potentially great individual down into their limited world, draining their creative energy. Zarathustra warns, already have you become hollow from many drops, meaning the small demands and judgments of the crowd can just erode your inner substance over time.
So solitude is needed to find your own signal amidst the noise.
Exactly. It's essential for real self-confrontation, for genuine creation, because it's where you're forced to face your own truth without the distortion of external opinions. It's where, as he puts it, the worst enemy you can meet will always be yourself. You ambush yourself in caverns and forests.
Facing your own demons.
Right. This isolation forces you to grapple with your internal struggles, your own devils, to go through that hard process of self-overcoming. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? The creator's task in solitude is ultimately to create a god for yourself out of your 7 devils, to transform those inner conflicts, those destructive bits, into sources of strength and new, self-made values. For you, the listener, it's a really profound reminder to carve out that space for deep self-reflection, away from the constant buzz.
He also totally reimagines virtue in a way that just flies in the face of conventional ideas. He boldly says, I do not even teach that virtue is its own reward. Okay, so if it's not about following external rules or pleasing God or even getting a personal benefit, what is virtue for Zarathustra? How does it show up in a creator's life?
Yeah, he throws out the rule book on virtue. For him, it's not about sticking to a prescribed moral code or looking for approval or expecting some payoff. It's an earthly virtue. It's an inner drive, a deep, almost organic expression of your authentic, powerful self.
Like something that just flows out of you.
Exactly. He says, your very self be in your action as the mother is in the child. It's about a kind of self-generated excellence that comes from your being, not something imposed from outside. He also stresses how dynamic and striving virtue is. He notes that one virtue is more of a virtue than 2 because it is more of a knot for one's destiny to cling to.
Suggesting focus. Intensity.
Yeah, a deep commitment to a core value. And he even talks about the conflict of your virtues, where things like envy and distrust and the backbiting among the virtues are actually necessary for them to grow and fight for the highest place within you.
So even our virtues need to struggle and evolve.
Apparently so. Ultimately, the goodness of the powerful one should be their last self-conquest. This implies that real virtue comes from strength, from self-mastery, not from weakness or just following orders. It's about cultivating this inner abundance that then naturally expresses itself as virtue.
This sounds like a really demanding path, even when it comes to relationships. Zarathustra gives some pretty radical advice on love and friendship, especially when he says, rather do I advise you to flight from the neighbor and to love of the farthest. That seems the opposite of love thy neighbor. What kind of love is he pushing for here? What does love of the farthest mean?
Right, it sounds harsh, like advocating isolation. But it's not really about misanthropy. It's a call for a higher, more transformative kind of connection. He argues that standard love of the neighbor can often be a bad love of yourselves, a way of escaping your own solitude, seeking easy comfort and closeness and sameness, a love that often just reinforces mediocrity or maybe even hidden resentment.
So what's the alternative? Love of the farthest.
True love, for him, is for what's distant for the future, for the potential of the Superman in others and in yourself. It's a love that inspires growth, not stagnation. A love that wills the other person and yourself to become more. He redefines friendship, too. A friend isn't just a buddy.
But a festival of the earth. A foretaste of the Superman.
Exactly. Friends aren't primarily there for comfortable validation. They're there to inspire and challenge each other to climb higher, to become who they're meant to be. It implies choosing your connections carefully, seeking out people who lift your spirit and push your boundaries, not just echo your opinions.
And then he introduces that really fascinating and maybe uncomfortable idea of the best enemy within friendship. You shall be closest to him with your heart when you withstand him. That's a tough one for our modern idea of friendship being all about harmony and support.
It really is, because it pushes hard against that conventional idea of smooth harmony. For Zarathustra, Real friendship involves growth through challenge, through absolute honesty, not just cozy affirmation. He states, if one would have a friend, then must one also be willing to wage war for him. And in order to wage war, one must be capable of being an enemy.
Wage war for him by being an enemy to him, in a sense.
Exactly. It suggests a dynamic where you mutually push each other to your limits, striving for self-overcoming, even if that means facing hard truths, having intellectual battles, challenging deeply held beliefs. It's a love that sharpens, not softens. It sculpts, it doesn't just comfort. It's about seeing the other's potential and demanding they live up to it, just as you expect them to demand it of you. For you, listening, it's maybe worth reflecting. Do your closest relationships genuinely challenge you to grow, or do they sometimes just keep you stuck in a comfortable rut?
Lastly, Zarathustra also has this unique, almost visionary take on marriage. He describes it not just as a simple union, but as this profoundly creative act. Marriage. So call on the will of the two to create the one that is more than those who created it. How does this radical vision stack up against typical views of marriage? What kind of creation is he even talking about?
He draws a sharp contrast between this ideal and what he sees as common, maybe degraded forms of marriage. Marriage is marked by poverty of soul, filth of soul, pitiable self-complacency, harsh words. For Zarathustra, marriage isn't fundamentally about comfort or social convention or even just companionship. It's a shared act of creation with a higher goal. The aim isn't just to propagate yourself onward, like having kids, but to propagate upward.
Upward.
Yes. He says, for that purpose, may the garden of marriage help you. It's a call to build living monuments to your victory and freedom. It suggests a union focused on achieving something greater than the sum of its parts, a shared striving towards the Superman ideal, a joint effort to cultivate a richer, more powerful, more meaningful life together. It's a partnership where both people push each other to their highest potential, making the combined entity something more profound, more creative than either could be alone. It's a challenge for any couple, really. Is our union just comfortable, or is it genuinely a force for mutual elevation and creation? V, the dynamic core. Will to power and eternal return.
Okay, let's move deeper now into Zarathustra's philosophy, towards two of Nietzsche's most profound and definitely most misunderstood concepts. These really feel like the dynamic core of his thinking, the will to power and the eternal return. Yeah, the heavy hitters.
Let's start with the will to power, a phrase that's certainly been misinterpreted over the years. Zarathustra says, wherever I found a living thing, there found I will to power. And even in the will of the servant, found I the will to be master. Okay, let's try and break this down. Is it fair to say, at its simplest, that he sees this as the fundamental drive in all living things, not just to survive, but to constantly push beyond, to master, grow, create?
That's a really good starting point, yes.
Yeah.
It's much less about brute force over other people and much more about this inherent internal push towards self-overcoming and expansion. The will to power is absolutely key to understanding Zarathustra, and you're right, it often gets boiled down to this crude desire for domination.
It's more nuanced.
Much more. Zarathustra describes it as the basic driving force of all life itself, that which must ever overcome itself. It's not just a passive will to life, which he suggests would just aim for mere existence, self-preservation. No, this is an active, dynamic striving for growth, mastery, expansion, creation.
And even in the servant. Yes, even in the will of the servant, he finds the will to be master, maybe master over someone weaker, or maybe just master over some limitation, asserting strength in a smaller sphere. This force, he argues, underlies everything, including all valuing. Out of the very reckoning speaks the will to power.
Meaning our morals, our ideas of good and evil.
Are fundamentally expressions of this underlying drive to overcome, to shape reality, to create value, which implies that good and evil, which would be everlasting, it does not exist. Of its own accord must it ever overcome itself anew. Values aren't fixed tablets from heaven. They are created, asserted, and eventually transcended by this relentless activity of the will to power. It's a call for you, the listener, to recognize this fundamental impulse within yourself, not just to survive, but to thrive, grow, exert your unique form of mastery over yourself and your world.
That's a massive reframing of, well, everything. But even this mighty will, as he paints it, hits a wall, doesn't it? Its powerlessness regarding the past, what he calls the burden of it was.
Exactly. That's a huge problem for the will.
He talks about the will's teeth gnashing in most lonesome tribulation because it can't change what's done. It can't command the past. How do you overcome that, this massive weight of everything that's already happened?
This inability to change the past is a source of huge suffering, and crucially, it's the origin of what Zarathustra calls the spirit of revenge.
Revenge against time.
In a sense, yes. When the will can't alter what was, it lashes out. It transforms suffering into penalty, trying to punish the past, make it pay. Zarathustra says this spirit of revenge has hitherto been man's best contemplation, showing just how deep this reactive impulse goes.
So how does the will get liberated?
True liberation for the creating will comes when it learns to transform the past, not by changing it, because it can't, but by affirming it wholly. It has to learn to say, but thus would I have it. Turning it was into something willed, something desired, rather than something regretted or something to be avenged.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. The challenge is for the will to become its own deliverer and joy bringer, to unlearn that spirit of revenge and achieve reconciliation with time. The ultimate goal, the highest expression of the will to power, is to will backwards, to embrace and affirm everything that has happened as necessary, as part of its creative flow, accepting all past events as part of its destiny. For you listening, this means facing your regrets, your past pains, and finding a way not just to accept them, but to will them as integral parts of the unique story of your becoming.
Which leads us directly, I think, to maybe his most unsettling and yet profound idea, the one Zarathustra himself seems to wrestle with, the terrifying but also liberating vision of eternal return.
Is abysmal thought, yeah.
Can he help us really get our heads around this? He uses that imagery of the dwarf, the gateway, with two faces, these two eternal lanes stretching back and forward.
This vision is really the peak, or maybe the abyss, of Zarathustra's thought. It's a moment of intense revelation, almost a spiritual crisis. The gateway image represents this specific moment, the present. From it, a long eternal lane backwards goes into the eternity of everything that was, and another eternity goes forward into everything that will be.
And the chilling question,
posed by the dwarf, who represents the spirit of gravity, the weight of reality, must not this gateway also have already existed? And crucially, must we not eternally return? The eternal return is the idea that everything, every event, every joy, every sorrow, every tiny detail will happen again, eternally to this identical and self-same life.
Exactly the same.
Infinite. Exactly the same. No escape, no final goal, no ultimate progress. Everything recurs precisely as it did before, an infinite number of times, in an endless cycle. It's a thought experiment, really. The ultimate litmus test for life affirmation.
Okay, that sounds way more terrifying than liberating for most people, I imagine. Repeating mistakes, pains, boring bits, forever. It feels like a curse, not a path to freedom. How do you get from sheer terror to affirmation with that thought?
It is terrifying, precisely because it forces you to ask, could you honestly say yes to your entire life? Every single detail, every grief, every mundane moment, knowing it will repeat endlessly.
That's a heavy question.
It is. Zarathustra's own struggle with it is shown vividly in that image of the young shepherd choking on a heavy black serpent. He has to bite its head off and spit it away, a powerful metaphor for confronting and overcoming the great disgust at the idea of eternal return, especially if it just means the endless return of the small man, of mediocrity, of an unlived life.
So where's the liberation?
The liberation comes from the profound affirmation that can follow after biting the serpent's head off. It's when you can say, said you ever yes to one joy, O my friends, then said you yes also to all woe. All things are enlinked, enlaced, and enamored. For joys all want eternity.
So affirming one moment means affirming everything connected to it.
Yes. To truly affirm any single joy means affirming the whole package of life, including the suffering, the flaws, the challenges, as necessary and desirable parts of that joy's eternal return. It's the ultimate test, the ultimate triumph of the will to power. To love your fate, amor fati, to want nothing to be different, past, present, or future. For you, the listener, the question becomes intensely personal. If you had to live this exact life with all its ups and downs over and over, forever, would you embrace it? Could you say yes? This thought can be an incredibly powerful spur to live so fully, so authentically, so creatively that you would desire its eternal return, laughter, dance, and the joyful affirmation of life.
Okay, given these really heavy philosophical concepts, will to power, eternal return, it might seem surprising that Zarathustra also champions things like laughter and dance. He calls them vital, almost sacred.
It's a crucial counterpoint, isn't it?
It really is. He proclaims, God's advocate am I with the devil, yet he is the spirit of gravity. How do laughter and dance work as an antidote to this spirit of gravity? What does it even mean to be light in his philosophy?
The spirit of gravity is Zarathustra's name for everything that weighs life down. Seriousness, rigidity, burden, joylessness. It's the spirit that inhibits creation, spontaneity, that joyful affirmation we talked about. It makes us cling to what's old and heavy, and he says, not by wrath, but by laughter do we kill this spirit.
Kill it with laughter, literally.
In a philosophical sense, yes. Laughter, lightness, dance. These are essential for freeing yourself from the weight of dogma, past grudges, the crushing seriousness of conventional morality. The ideal is to be light, to fly, to see oneself beneath myself, now a god. This isn't about being superficial, though. It's a profound spiritual agility.
Being able to move through challenges without being crushed.
Exactly. To create and recreate with joyous freedom. That's why he makes that famous, profound statement. I would only believe in a god who could dance.
Which is such a radical rejection of solemn, static gods or morality.
Totally. It embraces movement, rhythm, joy, creation. He urges false be every truth which has not had laughter along with it, and challenges us. Lift up also your legs, you good dancers, and better still if you stand upon your heads. It's about embracing joyful defiance, a playful, creative stance towards existence itself. For you listening, it's maybe an invitation to inject your own life, even the serious parts, with more playful affirmation. To ask, where am I taking things too seriously? Where am I weighing myself down?
So it connects back to embracing life completely, including its flaws, its suffering. Not seeing them as mistakes to be erased, but as necessary fuel for creation, for deeper joy. He says the world is the eternally imperfect and eternal contradictions image and imperfect image.
Precisely. For Zarathustra, imperfection and suffering aren't bugs, they're features. They're necessary ingredients for creativity and growth, the actual raw material from which you forge new values. Creating that is the great salvation from suffering and life's alleviation.
So suffering isn't just to be endured, it's fuel.
It's fuel for the creator. He teaches that suffering shouldn't be avoided, but embraced as vital. Much bitter dying must there be in your life, you creators. A noble one, he suggests, doesn't just try to ease suffering with pity that keeps people small. They encourage greatness through challenges that push towards self-overcoming, towards new creation. He even says, provocatively, that humanity's original sin is simply that man has enjoyed himself too little.
Too little joy, not too much sense.
Yeah. It highlights this fundamental imbalance where seriousness, solemnity, moral condemnation have just overshadowed joy, lightness, affirmation, and that has actually held back human potential. It's another call to find that joyful yes to the entirety of life, even the harsh parts.
This whole journey then involves a kind of healing, doesn't it? A convalescence.
Yeah.
Zarathustra himself goes through it after his great disgust with humanity. It leads him to this renewed purpose, joy, but also to this powerful, almost severe command. Become hard.
Yeah, that one lands heavily too.
It sounds so unmerciful, again, so counter to what many would see as virtuous. What does this hardness mean for the creator? How does it link to embracing suffering?
The command, become hard, is definitely often misread as just endorsing cruelty or callousness. But in Zarathustra's context, it's really not that. It's about strength, resilience, the unyielding, maybe even inexorable will of the creator.
Inner fortitude.
Exactly. Developing the inner strength to withstand adversity, to break old values that are holding things back, and to forge new ones without getting bogged down in sentimentality, weakness, or compromise. He says, for the creators are hard, and blessed must it seem to you to press your hand upon millenniums as upon wax.
To shape the future with force.
To have the strength and will to shape the future deliberately, to leave your mark on time. This hardness is for those noble souls who want nothing gratuitously, who are willing to fight step by step with the giant chance to reach their highest goals. They understand that real creation often demands immense personal cost, unwavering resolve, and the capacity to endure pain without breaking. It represents this unyielding affirmation of your own will and purpose against all resistance, transforming suffering into strength, molding the world instead of just being molded by it. For you, the listener, it's about cultivating that inner toughness, maybe like a diamond-like resilience that lets you pursue your deepest calling without flinching when things inevitably get difficult.
Outro. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today, journeying through Zarathustra's radical vision. Really has been a transformative expedition, hasn't it? From that powerful call to the Superman, the affirmation of the earth.
Through the metamorphoses of the spirit camel, lion, child.
Right. And then his really scathing critiques of society, his unique, often challenging takes on virtue, friendship, even marriage.
And finally landing on those huge concepts, the will to power and the eternal return. It's quite a landscape.
It really is. And Nietzsche, through Zarathustra, he's clearly not offering easy answers, is he? or superficial comfort?
Not at all. It's a profound challenge he lays down, a call to relentless self-overcoming, to create your own values, not just passively accept them, and to courageously affirm all of it, the suffering and the immense joys.
It's a philosophy that really demands you participate actively in your own becoming, this constant striving upward and finding that joyful yes to whatever life throws at you.
Absolutely.
So for you listening, Zarathustra's words really offer this potent invitation, don't they, to examine your own beliefs, your own aspirations. Are you right now more of a camel carrying burdens? Maybe a lion rejecting the old thou shalts? Or are you striving towards becoming that child, capable of pure, joyful creation?
Yeah, what values are you actually creating? What path are you forging? How authentically are you living it? It's not just intellectual gymnastics. It's a powerful call to self-reflection, maybe even personal transformation.
It's a call to look inside and ask, what really drives my will? What am I willing to truly fight for? And what kind of existence, with all its messiness, am I willing to affirm, maybe even reaffirm, for all eternity?
That eternal return. It's not a prediction, is it? It's more like an ethical challenge. Live in such a way that you would want this moment, this entire life, to come back forever.
Which brings us to a final thought. Consider Zarathustra's famous, provocative parting words to his own disciples. Depart from me, and guard yourselves against Zarathustra, and better still, be ashamed of him. Perhaps he's deceived you. Now I bid you lose me and find yourselves.
Such a powerful ending.
It really is. What does it truly mean for you to lose Zarathustra, to transcend even these powerful teachings we've discussed, in order to find and create your own unique meaning, your own unique path? This deep dive isn't the end of a philosophical journey. Maybe it's the audacious, inspiring beginning of your own, where the highest goal might just be to surpass even your teachers, and ultimately, perhaps even yourself.